Welcome. Today what we're going to do is look at a money multiplier problem. And remember that the money multiplier is based on the required reserve ratio. The required reserve ratio is how much money that the Federal Reserve, or each bank, excuse me, has to put on reserve with the Federal Reserve. Okay, that was a little confusing, but let's go ahead and start our slideshow. So the money multiplier is how we figure it out is 1 over the required reserve ratio. So if the required reserve ratio is 12.5%, then the money multiplier, what we would like to do is to, and I'll use the mouse right here, 1 over, turn that percentage into a decimal, 1 over 0.125, and that would equal 8. So the money multiplier would equal 8. This doesn't really tell us a whole lot about what this money multiplier means, but the money multiplier will show us how much money is being created based upon whether the Federal Reserve is increasing the required reserve ratio or decreasing the required reserve ratio. I have another example of a problem that I think makes that a little clearer. So here is a nice little problem that we have, and it says Sally deposits $1,000 in a bank. The required reserve ratio is 4%. What is the amount of money in the money supply? Reading this is very careful, and you have to read these questions very carefully, and I'll talk to you about that in just a moment. In this particular example, what we're going to do is to take 1,000, and we're going to multiply that by 1 over the required reserve ratio of 4% or 0.04. When we do that, we get 1,000 times 25. This would mean that $25,000 would now be the new money supply. Okay, now the reason I say that you have to read this kind of carefully is because this particular question, and let's see if I can do this. Let's see, I want to spotlight this. This particular question says, what is the amount of money in the money supply? Okay, so in the money supply, that becomes kind of important to us. And so in the money supply. So this is why I use this particular formula here of right here of not subtracting out the original deposit. If, however, this question asked me what is the amount of money created from this deposit, what is the amount of money in the economy as a result, then I would do something a little bit different. And what I would do is I would take that $1,000, okay, let's see if I can get this right, okay, times 1 over 0.04, which we know is going to equal $25,000. But there's a second step. If they're asking about how this changed the money supply, then what I want to do is subtract out the original deposit. Okay? So it really becomes important to look at how the question's worded. So the right answer, if they ask, well, what is the, how much did this deposit change the money supply? It would actually be, subtracting out the original deposit, it would be $24,000. The next slide kind of talks a little bit about that, being careful in how you read these particular questions. Oh, let me erase this. Let's see. Oh, gosh. Again, still learning, so work with me. Clear all drawings. Okay. So here's our next slide, which kind of helps to reiterate the fact to read really carefully on these. So if it's talking, the question's asking about increasing the money supply, make sure you subtract the original deposit. If it talks about the amount created, subtract the original deposit. But if they talk about what's the total amount or what is the amount in the supply, then you go ahead and leave that original deposit. Hope this was helpful, and if you have any questions, please always don't forget to contact me. Thank you. Come on.